Hi, everybody. We're just waiting for folks to join. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're just going to give everybody some time to get logged into Zoom before we get started. Okay. I'm going to give it a minute or two more for folks to join, seeing people entering the room. Really looking forward to welcoming you all today and joining us for our Tackling Ghost Gear in North America event. I'll give it a minute or two more. Okay. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you with us today for our Tackling Ghost Gear in North America event. Today, we'll dive deep into the threats posed by lost, abandoned, and discarded fishing gear, commonly known as ghost gear, and discuss our ongoing efforts to address this issue. A quick heads up that we are recording this webinar today. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, welcome again, everybody. Thank you for being here with us for our Tackling Ghost Gear in North America virtual event. My name is Sarah Murphy. I'm the Director of New Markets at Ocean Conservancy. I want to give you a quick preview of our agenda for today's event. First, we're going to spend about 40 minutes or so diving deep into the ghost gear threats and effective solutions. Then we'll have a virtual tour of the net recycling facility with our project partner, Borreo. And then later on in the event, we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for our audience question and answer session. We're so happy you could join us today. A couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. If you have a question at any point during the event, please submit it through the Q&A button that you should see at the bottom of your screen. And if you happen to experience any technical difficulties or issues during the event, please feel free to reach out to us through the chat box in Zoom or via email at rsvp@oceanconservancy.org. During the event, you'll hear from a handful of experts from Ocean Conservancy, Global Ghost Gear Initiative, and our project partner, Borreo. Okay. So, just go back. Our mission. I'm so happy to be here representing Ocean Conservancy today and all of our fantastic work. Before we dive into ghost gear, I wanted to provide a brief overview of Ocean Conservancy. Ocean Conservancy is an environmental nonprofit organization that was founded in 1972. We work to protect the ocean from today's greatest global challenges. Together with our partners, we create evidence-based solutions for a healthier ocean protected by a more just world. For over 50 years, we have led ocean conservation efforts and engaged elected officials, scientists, the private sector, the media, and citizens locally and globally to take direct action on behalf of the ocean. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., with offices around the country, including in Portland, Oregon, where I'm located. We have about 180 staff, including premier ocean scientists and conservation and policy experts. We like to say that we're big enough to make a difference, but small enough to be nimble. Our work is focused on sound science and policy, and we aim to get to the root causes of the biggest challenges affecting our ocean today. Ocean Conservancy's aspirational goals are organized to address 3 of the biggest threats facing our ocean: tackling climate change, stopping plastic pollution, and protecting biodiversity. Our programs reflect a commitment to a future of greater global equity, which we strive to carry out by working with a diverse group of partners to bring equity and justice into the policy decision-making process. Over our 50-year history, we've made measurable progress in addressing the greatest threats facing our ocean. To name a few, in just the past year alone, We've worked with partners around the world to conduct over 500 cleanups in our efforts to remove 15 million pounds of trash from beaches and the ocean. We have secured climate-ready fisheries as a priority issue in the Biden administration's Ocean Climate Action Plan, helping preserve the ocean's long-term ability to provide food and support businesses, recreation, and culture. We have advocated at the United Nations for a strong global plastics treaty, a legally binding instrument to combat the plastic pollution crisis. And we have produced new research providing critical evidence of microplastics in human-consumed proteins, a key step in the process to determine human exposure to and the overall human health risks of the microplastics we ingest. Before we dive into Ghost Gear, I wanted to go ahead and do a quick poll. And you should see that popping up. How much plastic enters the ocean each year? Is it 1 million metric tons, 5 million metric tons, or 11 million metric tons? We'll give everyone about 15 seconds to answer this poll and then show you the results. Okay, and we have a few answers. A few folks have selected 5 million metric tons. Overwhelming majority is 11 million metric tons, and that is the correct answer. 11 million metric tons. So that means with this 11 million metric tons, that's how much plastic ever enters our ocean each year. And in order to help everybody visualize what a vast number that is, imagine a garbage truck dumping a full load of garbage into the ocean every minute of every day. Unfortunately, it's actually 1.5 garbage trucks per minute, but you get the idea. Ocean Conservancy is leading the fight against ocean debris, especially plastic. As some of you may know, ghost gear has been identified as the most harmful form of marine debris, causing whole-scale ecosystem damage and severely impacting marine animals. And I'm just waiting for the slide to advance. Sorry about that. It's my pleasure to introduce Ingrid Hiskis, Senior Director of Global Ghost Gear Initiative at Ocean Conservancy. Ingrid oversees the Global Ghost Gear Initiative. She has a background in international policy and has been working in this field for more than a decade. Through her work, she has spent time with artisanal fishers in Vanuatu and Indonesia to mark and track their fishing gear, led government and corporate roundtables, participated in gear removal, and presented at high-level policy and industry conferences. Welcome, Ingrid.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the introduction, Sarah. So great to see so many of you join this virtual event on a weeknight, on a school night. Really appreciate it. I'm going to dive into what Ghost Gear is, what we do at Ocean Conservancy to address the problem. And there might be some questions along the way as well for the audience. I think some of you might have met me at the event we did last year with our partners Vireo at the Oxnard facility, but my name is Ingrid Hiskis. I'm the Senior Director at Ocean Conservancy, and I've been part of the Global Ghost Gear Initiative since 2015. So next year, we're actually celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Triple GI, which makes me feel really old, but also so great to see what we have accomplished over the last 10 years. I'm going to try and advance the slide myself here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So some of you might have already heard or know what ghost gear is, but just to recap here, ghost gear is abandoned, lost, or discarded fishing gear it is the most harmful form of marine debris. And that is because it's really designed to capture and kill marine life. It's designed to fish. And so when it's lost in the ocean, it will exactly continue to do that for years on end. And because it is made of plastic mostly, both when we talk about capture fisheries as well as aquaculture, it can last into the ocean up to 600 years. So, you know, more than a lifetime, forever, basically. And that's why it is the most harmful form of marine debris. Next slide. Just to give a bit of more visualization of what ghost gear can look like, it can look like gear piling up on the side of a port. It can look like gear collected in bins like you see on the top right corner, but it can also lurk underneath the surface. And we have felt like over the last 10 years that the main issue with ghost gear is that's a hidden problem. Often you can't see it. And so what's out of mind or out of sight is often out of mind as well. And so what we try and do is really bring attention to the problem and why it is so important to continue to address it. And we're going to launch a second poll here now. So Stephanie is going to pop up a question on the screen. Hopefully you can all see it. So the question is, what percentage of all floating macroplastics in the ocean are fishing related? And so macroplastic is a piece of plastic that's quite big, like I would say this size. That's what we mean when we talk about macroplastic. So what percentage of all floating macroplastic in the ocean are fishing related? I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to think about it. Okay, let's close the poll. And I will show you the answer. You will see it as well pop out on your screen. But the answer is 70%. So, whoops. Sorry, the presentation. Oh, it doesn't want to go back. Oh, well. So macroplastics, about 70% of macroplastic in the ocean gyre is fishing related. So that number is quite big. It's actually volume-wise quite astonishing. Oh, there we go. And as I said, it is one of the most deadliest forms of marine debris, but it also threatens global food security, coastal communities, and fisher livelihood. And that is precisely because when fishing gear ends up in the ocean, it can continue to capture fish that might otherwise be sold, that is commercially a viable species. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I'm actually... There we go. Okay, so what causes ghost gear? There's some direct causes of ghost gear. For example, adverse weather conditions, marine traffic, or improper fishing methods. And this is why, for example, the first reason there why small island states are often disproportionately affected by ghost gear, because they are so much more subjective to adverse weather conditions caused by climate change. But there's also some indirect causes, for example, the lack and inaccessibility of disposal facilities. And that's exactly where our partner Borreo comes in, is collecting that end-of-life fishing gear to make sure that it doesn't end up in our ocean. So also on that slide, in terms of direct causes and indirect causes, you will see that it's very small percentage of ghost gear is because of intentional discard. So fishers generally don't want to lose their fishing gear. It's expensive to replace. And so it's really those direct and indirect causes that are the top reasons for fishing gear ending up in our ocean. So I already talked a little bit about the impact, but just to put some numbers on it, nearly 80% of animals that become entangled in ghost gear are injured or die, sadly. And half of the marine mammals that are on the threatened species list put together by IUCN have been affected by ghost gear, which is huge. Beyond the marine animal impact and beyond affecting fisher livelihoods, it can also cause navigational hazard. It can get caught in propellers of boats, and obviously be a threat. And there's also some research that suggests that between 5 and 30% of some fish populations in some fisheries die due to ghost fishing. So again, it is that food security impact as well. And that really makes ghost gear such a cross-cutting issue because it is impacting both humans, both animals, both the environment, our oceans, our coastlines. Next slide. So here you'll see some of those impactful images that I'm sure all of you have seen in the news or on the internet of animals being entangled in fishing gear. You see some seals here, some turtles, and even whales are washing up with nets in their stomachs. So, you know, it is very visual imagery showing how marine life is impacting by ghost gear. And when I see those images, it just tugs at my heartstrings and makes me want to do another 10 years at the Triple GI, making sure that we can prevent this from happening. So what do we do at Ocean Conservancy? We lead an initiative called the Global Ghost Gear Initiative. We are the only cross-sectoral alliance committed to driving solutions to the problem of lost and abandoned fishing gear worldwide. And we are a collective impact initiative, so we don't do this work alone. We work together with 138 member organizations. Boreo obviously is one of our key partners here. We also work together with 23 supporting governments. In the project that we will be presenting today, it's mainly Mexico, the US, and the Canadian government that have joined forces. And we also work together with high-level affiliates. So you can see here on the map, there's some dots of where we are working and where our members are located. And we definitely keep growing our membership base year on year. This is a quick snapshot here. You'll probably recognize some of these logos and some of these brands of organizations, corporations that we work with. And the slides just keep growing. I think in another year's time, there probably won't be any space here for the letters. And we're really excited that our membership base in Mexico is also really growing as a result of the fantastic work that our Mexico team and Boreo is doing there. So what are the goals of the Triple GI? We focus on the 3 R's. So we try to remove the gear that is already in the ocean. We reduce the amount of gear that gets lost or discarded in the ocean in the first place, so prevention work. And we also work with partners like Boreo to recycle the gear that is recovered or recycle gear that has reached the end of its life. So the 3 R's are really kind of our motto within the Triple GI. Throughout prevention, mitigation, and remediation work. We make sure that we create long-lasting, durable solutions, and we do that by raising awareness on the issue and learning the causes of gear loss. We do that through community events, but also by talking to fishers and learning from them why gear is being lost so that we can adapt our solutions to really speak to their needs. Our solutions are trying to be innovative to really minimize gear loss and also reduce the impact that is lost. An example of this is, for example, some of the gear technology trials that we are doing in Mexico to give fishers better fishing equipment to avoid gear loss. We also work with industry on appropriate disposal options. And we also work with industry to understand what their needs are and how they can be part of the solution and make sure that our fishing communities are served in this way. So the project that we're going to be talking about today is called NANCY, the North American Net Collection Initiative. It was our first transboundary initiative to really prevent ghost gear in the coastal waters of US, Mexico, and Canada. And we are working with those 3 governments to both set up the project as well as implement the project. Slides here. What is the vision of our NANCY project? It's really based on the 3 R's of the Triple GI, so reduce, remove, and recycle ghost gear and end-of-life fishing gear in North America to both protect marine life, preserve important ecosystems, decrease ghost fishing, and also open inaccessible fishing grounds to fishing communities. So it's really replicating the mission that we have in the Triple GI overall for that North American conglomerate of countries and fishing communities. And I would say that up until now, the focus really has been on Mexico, given the need there. So just to dive a little bit deeper, when we talk about removal, what we try and do is identifying and removing ghost gear from critical hotspots. And Claudia is going to be talking in her presentation how we identify those hotspots for removal operations. We also want to reduce gear from ending up in the ocean by developing national action plans. And again, Claudia will be highlighting how we've done that in Mexico and what action plan in general can look like. We also work with fishing communities to facilitate best practice workshops to really talk with fishers what some gear management practices might look like to avoid fishing gear loss. And then obviously we work with our partner Borreo and others to facilitate the collection of end-of-life fishing gear, transportation to our gear collection hubs, and then the processing of those materials into new consumer goods. Just basically creating a new life for those valuable fishing nets. Oops, doesn't move. Slide doesn't want to move. Let's see here. Oops, I think I moved it too much. Stephanie, are you able to take over control? Yeah, there we go. I think it's better if Stephanie controls the slides. She's more of a pro. So now we're going to hear from our project coordinator, Claudia. Claudia has more than a decade experience working in Mexico on conservation issues, including on ghost gear. And we're so excited that she's part of the Triple GI team. And she's going to update us on what we have been working on in Mexico in service of the Nancy Project. Claudia, the floor is yours.
Hi. Do I have control of the... Okay. Hi, good evening, and thank you all for your interest and for being part of this collective effort to protect our precious one and only ocean, because that is what our ocean is like. No divisions, no barriers, interconnect. And the Nancy Project reflects this borderless interconnection. Mexico, the US, and Canada all sharing the same flow of water, including abandoned fishing gear and microplastics in the flow. And the link between these three countries is not only through the water, but also through multiple operations related to ghost fishing gear. Fish and seafood trade between the countries, supplies for fishing gear manufacture between the countries, even the fishing net recycling process occurs between countries, as you will see later. So goals and activities to address ghost gear must be approached from a transnational perspective, and that is what Nancy is, the first transboundary initiative to address ghost gear in North America. And how are we addressing ghost gear in this region? Well, first, the Triple GI with partner support started in Mexico by gathering and analyzing for months evidence of the ghost gear scope, driver, and magnitude. The outcome, a probability model that answers where is more probable that ghost gears occurs in Mexico. Having that hotspot mapping helps locate and remove ghost gear, and this supports a healthy ecosystem. We're not going to dive into this, just mention very quick. In figure 1, you're looking at the areas from low to high potential for ghost gear occurrence in the Pacific. Figure 2, areas from low to high potential for ghost gear occurrence in the Atlantic of Mexico. Then, based on probable areas where ghost gear, we started coordinating removals. Last summer, the Triple GI, through partner support, coordinated ghost gear removals in Huatulco National Park in Oaxaca, Mexico. And this suggested the protection of the sensitive coral reefs of the area. Also, just a couple of months ago, with a local partner NGO, more than 10 tons of fishing nets were collected in San Felipe, Sea of Cortez. And this, including ghost gear removals via diving, and including a contest where teams compete to collect the largest amount of end-of-life fishing gear. Also in the Baja Peninsula, but now in the central area of Santa Rosalia, Mulegé. I'm pretty sure some of you may know that beautiful area. The Triple GI has been supporting for the last 2-3 years fishing gear collection led by women from the fishing communities, and we continue to support those efforts this year. Now, in the capacity building area, the Triple GI perform workshops focused on raising awareness and promoting training of best practices for gear management and for gear loss prevention. We engage stakeholders across the fisheries value chain to promote these best practices. We have performed workshops in Ensenada, in Cancun, and just last November, we led a couple of workshops in Guaymas and in Puerto Peñasco, better known as the Rocky Point. And our next workshop will be here in La Paz, Baja Sur, in next October. And by the way, weather and ocean are delicious in October, so everyone is very welcome. Other education activities are that, for example, the Triple GI supports a local NGO to run an educational program called Educar para la Vida, Teach for Life. It's for raising awareness on marine practice debris, and especially amongst children. More than 600 elementary school students from Central Baja were trained just last year. On the other hand, technology is a key component when preventing gear from being lost. This year, in Mexico, the Triple GI will be piloting market-ready new technology to reduce ghost gear. And next year, it will be piloting in Canada, in a Canada fishing community. So the idea is to engage fishers to use gear marking, gear tracking technology for effectively preventing ghost gear. We will conduct in Mexico in this November a project with lobster fishers to test smart buoys with very interesting features. One is a combo of escape hatch and emergency backup buoy for lobster and crab pots. And the other one is a technology that tracks and locates gear via a connected hardware device. Again, these trailings, two different technologies intend to protect equipment against loss, avoiding economic loss, reducing marine litter, and protecting the ocean. Now, in addition to creating knowledge, building capacity, removing ghost gear from the ocean, preventing ghost gear via technology, policy is a key element for everything else to function in the long term. The Triple GI has been collaborating with Mexico's federal officials to introduce the ghost gear topic in their agenda. Many things have happened in the process, from the Triple GI leading a very successful in-person meeting with top Mexican officials who pre-approved a draft ghost gear action plan, to then Mexico government sort of pausing environmental related topics due to internal politics and due to election processes. Even so, we are still very positive on that. We know that the Triple GI 10 ghost gear priorities proposal will be included in the National Policy of Seas and Coast that is on the making. And there are plans to publish it potentially in October. And that policy will remain until the year of 2030. In other things related to trilateral collaboration, last year, representatives from Canada, Mexico, and the US gathered virtually in the first trilateral government roundtable on ghost gear. The GIII led this event, and the proposal was to advance cooperation to address ghost gear in North America. And to end this slide, I will mention that the GIII is also working to build legislators' capacity about the importance of addressing ghost gear via legislation. We are providing technical input to strengthen bills that have been already introduced to the Congress. And just 2 months ago, the GIII, in collaboration with the Mexican Senate Environmental Commission, held an in-person roundtable at the Mexican Senate to discuss integrating ghost gear topics into 2 bills. We continue to follow up on that. My last slide today is on recycling. And here I won't take long. I will just say that one of Nancy's project main objectives is to prevent ghost gear via a model that delivers economic and social benefits to fishing communities. The GIII works with recycling companies in Mexico and California. Our main partner is Bureo. So in the next presentation, you will learn how Bureo operates to upcycle discarded fishing nets into high-value products, how Bureo, through the GIII Nancy project, works in Mexico to establish an end-of-life gear collection hub for pre-processing nets, how through the Nancy project, Bureo identifies new fishing industry partners, especially in the northwest of Mexico, how they offer incentives to fishers companies for the safe disposal of the nets. And finally, how Bureo, through the Nancy project, is just starting to lay the grounds for a new pilot project that could result in the recycling of one of Mexico's most common and problematic types of fishing nets, the monofilament ones. So good luck on that. And I think that's all from me. Thank you so much. And Ingrid, back to you.
Thanks so much, Claudia. So much achieved in Mexico already. So it's always so inspirational to hear it coming from you. And I've got the pleasure now to introduce our project partners from Bureo. I'll be joined here by the 2 co-founders, David Stover and Kevin Ahern, and they'll give an overview of Bureo's operations in Mexico and globally.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. I'm sorry that we're not in person here in Oxnard, but happy to be on the virtual call. And I think we were able to meet some of you at least during our last visit. While Claudia was talking there, I was reflecting that I think since our last meeting, our collection program, including the growth in Mexico, has grown about 50%. So in the period since we last met as a group, kind of on a volume basis, our program's grown from 1,000 tons to 1,500 tons. So in general, though, Bureo is still dedicated to the mission of really working alongside the OC and Nancy on this mission for us to end fishing net pollution. That's kind of the guiding light. Like our position in the supply chain is we work on finding positive solutions for that material. So this is a very dated photo. I think Kevin remarked that he was 10 years younger in this photo. That is Ben, also, who is a co-founder based in South America. We started building skateboards in 2013. That was very much a garage-sized business that was coming up with a novel solution to fishing nets. That was at the scale of 10,000 tons of material a year. We have really grown the program. We were actually at one of the first GIII meetings. I think the first, Ingrid.
10 tons, not 10,000 tons.
Sorry, 10 tons. 10 tons of material in the first year. That 10,000 tons would be a lot of skateboards. So our company actually, we're turning 11 this year, and we've certainly transformed from focusing on building our own products, which was skateboards at the time, to partnering with some industry leaders, including Patagonia, Yeti, Costa del Mar, on replacing where they use virgin plastics in their supply chains with our material. And so the advancement of Nancy in Mexico has really kind of helped support this growth and really capacity building for Borrego to go from just building our own products to obviously at scale looking to replace a virgin material. And we've been really thankful, obviously, for the support for the Nancy project on the development here in Oxnard, but then also of our team in Mexico. And I think very shortly here, Shell and Juan Carlos will walk you through kind of some of the project advancements that we've had in Mexico. I think from our side, we have been working beyond the borders just here in the US and Mexico. We have programs in 4 other countries right now we're collecting, and we've been really happy with the progress, with the advancement, with the engagement in Mexico. And we're really optimistic about the new projects that are launching to expand the types of material we can collect and really keep building capacity to find solutions for the material that is unfortunately continues to become a problem for discarded waste in the shores there. So I want to introduce Shell and Juan Carlos, let them talk to you about the program, and then Kevin and I will give you a short tour of the facility here in Oxnard after that. Thank you.
Hello everyone, we're very happy to be here. We are currently in San Felipe, Baja California, working precisely on the part of the project and we're looking for a viable solution for the recycling plant of monofilament nets. Right now we're going to be talking mainly about what we do in Mexico and what we do in the base of our facility in Ensenada. I'm just waiting for the slide to change. I'm going to turn it down.
Thank you.
There we go. So our facility in Mexico is located in Ensenada, which is in the northwestern part of Mexico, near Tijuana. The activities started in 2022. May was the date of the first net collection, and we currently have the facility fully operational. The operations have been employing totally local workers. And not only that, but now we also have all the staff completely certified and trained to meet with all of the Borrego's safety and quality standards. When we have a partnership, this is obviously possible thanks to a very big collaboration or partner that we have locally in Ensenada, which is Mantico. And Mantico is a company that is also a recycling company, but they focus more on electrodomestics. So in a funny and not planned, maybe totally way, it's also very helpful because it allows us to even do a lot of work in giving a second use or a second life to a lot of electrodomestics. We're part of this electrodomestics, really retention them or refocus them into the net recycling process that we do in Ensenada. Sorry. Okay, so our facility, the size is modest, but we do a lot in what we got, fortunately. So it's just about 43,000 square feet, where we do all the process, right from collecting all the way to baling and shipping. So our daily averages right now, we're working around 850 kilograms of net of nylon, and then we're washing and drying about 800 kilograms of net a day, and then we proceed with the baling, right? So we're currently sitting around 1 container a month, which is roughly between 15 to 15.5 tons. This is the whole overview of the process. So the first step would be on your upper left, which is on the shipping vessel. The first step would be where it's going to be talking a bit more in detail. It's presenting the program to the fisheries, right? Presenting the program, explaining to them the importance of this program, but mostly explaining the huge impact that it can have not only locally, but also in a general or more creative perspective, right? Once we have this partnership established, we just get into the net collections, which is the next image to the next two images to your right, which is where we have the truck fully loaded with nets that have met the end of their useful life with them, and then we send them to Ensenada. On the upper right corner, you're gonna see one of our employees who, doing part of the storing process in which we try to look for anomalies, contaminants, or creative state of the nets that would make the recycling process not viable or more complex. And once we complete the viable nets, we proceed into cutting them into more manageable pieces that are roughly 1.5 meter or 2 by 2 there. Then we start going into the washing process, and then we set this net to dry in the open space, just in drying land. After time that is usually a couple of hours, and once they're fully dried, we start on the baling process, which is completely manual. And the final product would be on your lower right corner, which are the bales of stock, washed, and dried nylon nets. We're going to be loading around 20 bales into this container, which are the 15 to 16.5 tons, and that is the end of the process that we do in Ensenada, because as mentioned, the process continues, but now it's going to be continuing in Chile, where it's going to be part of the shredding process.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and to present our project here in Mexico. And thank you, Juan Carlos, for that introduction to our work in Mexico. As they mentioned before, my name is Shell, and I'm the manager of the program in Mexico, Net Positiva program. And also my role is to establish contact with the fisheries, explain the program and all the benefits that they are doing with recycling, and also solidifying these collaborations with the Mexican fisheries. Also, as Juan Carlos explained before, when the fisheries end the season of repairing, because these nets are very expensive, they try to use the longest they can. So when they are finished with these nets, they call us, and we organize all the logistics to collect them and send them to our facilities in Ensenada. So we began the program 2 years ago with Mazardina and Pesca Azteca. These two fisheries are part of Grupo Pinza, one of the largest tuna and sardine fleets in Central and South America. And with this collaboration and all the efforts of Bureo in other countries in South America, were crucial to us to gain people's trust and also to expand. So after these two first partners, we actively working with 10 more fisheries, and also we continue working to show our program to more fisheries and more potential partners with government institutions and also with fishing syndicates. So our idea is to try to work with more fisheries and to have like more people working in this kind of project. So regarding to the collections, in these years we have collected or have been collected over 243 tons of nets, mainly from states around the Gulf of California, in Sinaloa, Sonora, and Baja California. That it's one of the states with more fishery activities. So on the other hand, we have exported almost 190 tons of nets that have been processed and shipped, as explained Juan Carlos, to Chile and Oxnard to the next step, that is the shredded. And one of the main goals of the Net Positiva program is to create these positive and local impacts in the communities So the projects we try to support are based in the same area that the fisheries are. So we have right now 3 projects, one in Mazatlan, in Guaymas, and in Ensenada. So far, we have funding with more than $40,000, and also through the recycling program and the proper disposal of fishing gear, we have contributed in the reduction of carbon emissions. And to talk a little bit more about the project, one of these is in Más Conciencia. This is based in Mazatlan, Sinaloa. It's the same location for Pesca Azteca and Mazardina, the 2 fisheries that I mentioned before. And this project is led by Sofia Trejo and another 3 women that are working as volunteers with the main goal of improving their community. They start this project like 5 years ago, and we start supporting them last year. So the main objective of this project is to build biobardas, or trash fences. These structures are made with recycling materials that are installed in the river mouths and canals in order to avoid garbage to reach the ocean. So also they are working and organizing beach and mangrove cleanups with volunteers. All their work is with volunteers. Also installation with the installation of edge trails in high density touristic areas, because we all know that this kind of waste is very complex and very common in the beaches. And well, also they are really focused on the environmental education. And all these kind of projects is trying to show the people that the impact of the trash in the environmental. Some of the results in the last year, they did at least 13 cleanups in areas in Mazatlan with the over 300 volunteers. With the biobardas, they collected over 100 tons of trash. And also, well, as I mentioned, they participate in several schools with the environmental education. Another project that is really interesting is in Guaymas. This is a wildlife rescue, rehabilitation, and research center. This project is also led by a veterinarian woman. And even though the main objective of this project is rescue and rehabilitation of animals, they also are working with the local fishermen in training how to properly handle the protected species in the area, to avoid bycatch, because it's very common that they have sea turtles and sea lions, so they need to know how to manage them. Also, another of their activities is that they are part of a network of surveillance and protection of sea turtles nests, and also provide help in strandings and entanglement marine mammals. Well, in the results in last year, they improved a lot of their educational equipment and did some rehabilitation in their installations. And this helps to increase the visits of people, so they can show from children from kindergarten to students in universities all the work that they are doing. And a part of that, they give veterinary care for more than 40 animals from 11 different species. So this kind of work and these kind of projects are really important to us because they are working to improve their community. It's people who knows what are their necessities, we always try to find these kind of projects and support them. And well, this is almost my last slide, and it's our future projects. As Juan Carlos and Claudia mentioned before, we're working right now in establishing a solution for the monofilament nets. This is the most common nets used by artisanal fisheries in Mexican coast. We're right now in San Felipe working, taking samples and trying to do a lot of tests, trying to find what will be the best solution for this material. And also, we hope this year we establish another collection hubs in Mazatlan and Tamaulipas for HDPE. That this kind of nets is mostly used for shrimp fishing industry. And well, finally, I like to say that we are very proud of all the progress that we have made over these past 2 years. And well, we're also very excited for all the challenges and potential collaborations. And well, we hopefully will have the opportunity to talk more about or things that we did and show you next year.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for the presentation. My name's Kevin, also one of the co-founders with Dave of Borreo. I just want to say, this was kind of a crazy idea that Dave, Ben, and I had 11 years ago now, to just work with fisheries and try to prevent an end-of-life solution for this material. It's moments like this, taking a step back and seeing how much this program has grown, the work that's being done, not only on the collection of nets in Mexico, 243 tons, but also because of that work, the community engagement and the implementation of the donation model and how that's being used to improve those communities. And I wake up every day just inspired and really proud of the work that the teams in Mexico and all around the world are doing here. So again, as Dave said, I wish we all could have been together here in Oxnard, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that again in the future soon. In lieu of that, we just wanted to share a little bit of information with you around sort of the nuts and bolts of how the process works of kind of transitioning what you can see here in this photo, just some dirty old fishing nets into something that can be put back into the economy in the form of a product, be given a second life, and reduce brands and the partners that we're working with, reduce their dependency on virgin or new plastic production so that we can stop drilling, we can reduce consumption as a whole, produce better products and more responsible products. So we have a short video here. It's after hours at our facility in California, so the teams have gone home. But we do have a short video from our facility in Chile that just kind of walks through the process of nets coming into the facility and transforming that. This would be similar to the work we're doing in Mexico, here in California, in Peru, and in Chile, and the countries we're working in. And then after this video, we'll kind of pick up a little bit where this video left off on a little tour. A caveat, I'm not an actor, so I'm gonna do the best I can to keep it interesting for you guys. But we'll pick up from that tour with a kind of live walkthrough of the facility here in California, walk through some of how we process the nets here, and then what happens after we do that initial work of like turning it from a dirty fish net into a viable like raw material in the form of the clean and wash shredded net, taking it beyond that into the product side. So Stephanie, if you're able to share the video, and then we'll do the tour shortly after.
All right, do you want to? Okay, this is live action. This is not a video recording.
Little
So
Eric-
we'll give you a little.
Eric Clapton for you guys. So yeah, just welcome to the California Net Processing Facility here at Borrego. Dave's gonna hold the camera while I walk around. Let's try and get this cleaned up, and hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So as mentioned earlier, with support from the OC and the Nancy program and all of the wonderful partners in that, we've been able to bring this facility online starting 2 years ago now. And this is our net collection and processing hub here in California, where we're working with nets that the team in Mexico are collecting, processing, and sending us from Ensenada, but also nets that we're collecting here throughout the coast of California, and actually now, as of this year, working with fisheries along the Gulf of Mexico as well in Mississippi and Louisiana. And so just thought we'd walk you through kind of what this looks like a little bit here, and then show you kind of some of the next steps of the process. So I guess while we're walking here, just to give you some light, these are the type of fisheries that we're working with in Chile and Mexico and most of the countries. There's small scale artisanal fishing boats all the way up to large scale industrial fishing partners. We work with everyone and we provide them with an end of life solution for their nets. And so that's kind of just an illustration of how that works. But back here behind kind of this dust wall is where most of the work happens. This is where we inbound nets, so basically large trucks, shipping containers, kind of like the trucks you saw in the presentation, would arrive at the facility here. And I think some of you were here, with us last year. For some of you, this will be new. A lot of the processing hasn't changed too much, so some of it might be redundant. And unfortunately, this year, you guys won't all get to run the equipment, but that'll be for next year's presentation. But basically, we have a yard outside here that we store kind of the nets as they're dropped off. And then the teams here bring in manageable sections of net. So this is kind of like what net would look like. If you turn the camera just down a little bit. Yeah. This is what the net would look like as it comes into us. This is a really large net panel. You can see if I were to stretch this out, would probably take up the most of this part of the room. This type of net is used for a fishing practice called purseining, and essentially it's kind of like what it sounds like, where you would drop the boat off, run the net around a school of fish, close the bottom of it like a purse, and then pull it to the side of the boat and remove those fish. So very large net panels. They come to us like this. And the first thing we have to do is kind of remove any foreign debris, anything that's not the materials that we're intending to recycle. So in this case, we're trying to recycle nylon. So we're going through and cutting out the polypropylene float lines, any repairs, anything that basically needs to get separated out. As you saw in the video, from that point, it goes through a washing process to remove salt and sand and other forms of contamination. And then it goes through drying, obviously, to keep the net material dry. And then we process it through this large industrial shredder here. So this is essentially like a very fancy European designed wood chipper for plastic. And so what it does is focuses on size reduction. And so for the next steps of the process that we'll walk you through up in the front there, the next key step is to be able to start with like a very clean, pure, and small pieces of material that can go into the next pieces of recycling equipment. So here with this equipment, we have basically an in-feed conveyor that feeds the material into the shredder, and then we have what comes out of the outfeed into these large bulk industrial sacks. And basically large net panels go in, as Juan Carlos mentioned earlier, they're around 1 to 2 meters. And then they come out in this small shredded material that's been now washed and dried, and we can sack and inventory that material. But essentially what you get to here is this small kind of fiber. And this is the next step of the recycling process. Well, I'm dropping some of it. So this is the next step of the recycling process. So we'll take a walk back to the front real quick, and I'll show you some of that. So come on back to the front. Just want to illustrate here too, this is how we ship the material. These are large, about 400 kilogram or about 1,000 pounds per sack here of material that's palletized. This gets loaded into a shipping container and sent to our recycling partner that does the actual polymerization back to the pellet that goes further upstream in the sort of product pipeline. But all these bags are inventoried, tagged, so we know where everyone came from, what its source was, how much it weighs, who processed it, all the good data, so we can keep track of everything and have traceability and transparency through the supply chain. So at the end, we can say confidently that the things that are made from fishing nets are actually made from these fishing nets. How we do on time? Oh, good. I got 1 minute left. So you want to come around this side. So kind of on the smaller scale side here, this is, again, what would represent, one of those fishnet panels that's been washed and cleaned. You saw the output of that shredder, which is essentially this material here. This is that same black fiber fluff that gets stored in those sacks and goes into the recycling process. It goes through a depolymerization breakdown process that's too complicated to explain in the next 30 seconds. But basically what happens here is the nylon that is made up of this fishing net gets broken down completely to the monomers on a molecular level that make up nylon. All of the sands, all the sands, salts, dyes, anything that isn't that nylon gets filtered out, and then it gets repolymerized in a reactor back into this. It comes back to the same form of virgin source nylon, except the only difference being that instead of sourcing and filtering and processing oil, you're filtering and processing fish nets. So historically, we got started, as Dave mentioned earlier, making skateboards. So back now 11 years ago, we were making skateboards from the material. We saw a much bigger opportunity to grow and scale the business through working with other partners who had nylon supply chains. And one of those is a good partner of ours, Patagonia. They looked at their supply chain, saw that they were using nylon in a significant number of their garments, and starting in 2018, actually kicked off an R&D program to look at how we could transition their nylon garments into Net Plus nylon garments, which is the trade name for the material that we have here. So if you look now in a Patagonia store, most of their down sweaters, their baggies, their jackets, a number of different products are made from this material. And we're continuing to grow and scale those business partnerships with other brands that'll be launching this year that just enables us to collect, scale, and grow our collection side of our business even further. So that's kind of the bulk of what we're doing here. Thank you guys for the opportunity to share that. And I think we're going now to Q&A, which I'm guessing there might be some questions. So please, everyone, thank you again for your time, and please feel free to ask us any questions you have. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ingrid, Claudia, Kevin, David, Shell, and Juan Carlos for an amazing presentation and this deep dive into the incredible efforts that we're taking to combat this deadly form of marine debris. This work is inspiring on so many levels, and we're so grateful to the many supporters of this work who make it possible for this incredible group of partners to address ghost gear. We're now going to have our audience Q&A session. Please continue to send questions through the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. That's how we're going to go through the questions that are submitted. We'll do our best to get to them all. Just a reminder that although we are recording, we will not be recording the question box, so your questions will remain anonymous in the recorded version. And if you're having any issues with accessing the Q&A box, please go ahead and use the chat function, but hopefully you're able to see that at the bottom of your screen. Great, we're seeing some questions coming in. This first one is for you, Ingrid. What is the most harmful form of fishing gear that is lost in the ocean?
Great question. So obviously all fishing gear that is lost in the ocean is harmful, as we've talked about, both for fishing communities, marine life, and our coastlines. But the most harmful form of fishing gear is something called a gill net. I think you're actually on the slide or on the virtual background behind me, that's what you're seeing right there. Both in terms of the likelihood of that type of fishing gear being lost, as well as the impact that it will continue to have. Gill net fisheries or gill net fishing nets are one of the most harmful forms of fishing debris. And so we are really excited that we'll be working with Borreo a little bit later this year to also come up with a recycling solution for these forms of fishing gear as well, because they're definitely very prevalent in artisanal fishing communities in Mexico.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. This next question is for Claudia. Claudia, how does the Global Ghost Gear Initiative team manage to accomplish all of this work in Mexico with its small team?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, well, I think one of the key elements of the success of the project is that we collaborate with several partner NGOs and individuals across the country. And so I think that'll be the answer, like collaboration.
Wonderful. Borrego team, this next question is for you. Can you share what would happen if and when the discarded fishing nets are no longer present?
Yeah, I think we get this question a lot because we are essentially setting up a model to recycle nets at their end of life. And so I think there is a misconception that this is a one-time cleanup, but similar to other forms of waste, this is an ongoing issue, and the team in Mexico, has seen that firsthand. The fisheries generate waste on an ongoing basis. It's a consumable. So just like the trucking industry wears out tires and then you have tire waste, the fishing industry wears out nets. And so you have nets that are either lost or discarded or can no longer be useful. And so unfortunately, the scale of that issue continues year on year end. And so we're kind of up against trying to grow and meet the amount of waste per year, every year.
I'll just add, if we ever do recycle all of the nets, we'll be pretty happy and consider the job well done.
I look forward to that.
Either that or
go ahead.
reach material for a material that is more resistant, right? Because it's something that we also have noticed that even though some nets, when we collect them, they look fresh and new, but there's a slight difference that it makes them not viable for the fishing industry anymore. So it's a process that they must go through each end of the season, of the fishing season, because otherwise they are risking not only the vessels but also the crew and the fishing, right? So no company wants to get the fishing tangled up in the bottom with all the fish already in there.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. We have another question here, specifically about the nets and their composition. Are there any natural fibers in any of the ghost gear, or is it all plastic? And I'll start with you, Ingrid, and if anyone else wants to join in about that.
That's a good question. As I mentioned in the presentation, most of it is unfortunately plastic. There are some experiments going on with biodegradable fishing gear. And in some fishing gear types, not nets so much, but in pots and traps, there are some successes that can be shared. But for fishing nets, often when we look at biodegradable materials, it compromises the effectiveness of the fishing. So it's hard to go that pathway, but there's definitely some trials underway. But I don't know if our partners at Borrego might have additional insights they want to share.
Yeah, I was just going to add, it is a great question. And for anyone who's followed the fishing industry long enough, you'd know that originally they got started with natural fibers in the form of jute and other naturals that would have biodegraded. Like many industries, as the fishing industry progressed, scaled, and became more price and cost sensitive and performance sensitive, they transitioned, like a lot of different industries in the 50s and 60s, towards using polymer-based or plastic-based fishing nets because they lasted longer. They're lighter. Jute nets are super heavy when they're wet, so much heavier load to move on and off your boat. You lose efficiency in the boat. So plastic from an application standpoint, as far as the fishing industry is concerned, is an improvement. And so what we're focusing on is basically understanding that the likelihood of them transitioning back to natural fibers because of the volume, the cost, and everything else is a less viable option right now. Our focus is on basically creating circularity in that and capturing that waste before it ends up in the environment. We incentivize the fishermen to return their net to us, similar to like a bottle deposit program for a can or a bottle. There's value in that material. And so now when they return it to us, they know they're going to get incentivized. We get a raw material that we can recycle and produce a higher value product with. And we also get asked all the time, like, could you guys make fishing nets out of fishing nets? And from a technical standpoint, the answer is yeah. And that's something that, we see as an opportunity as we continue to grow and scale and have more material available, working with really interested fishery partners to transition their nylon-based gear to recycled nylon gear. But it's an uphill battle, a long way to go. But great question.
Thanks, Kevin. I see a question in the webinar chat itself from Brad. I believe it's to the Borrego team about the Patagonia clothing that is produced. Are the clothing articles fire and heat resistant? If I'm understanding that question correctly.
I definitely wouldn't recommend jumping through a campfire with any Patagonia clothing on. So to kind of dive a little bit deeper into it, so nylon, the material that we're recycling here and producing the garments from, is a material that's been used in the apparel industry for many years because of its durability, its high performance, strength, weight, all of these great characteristics. And so we work with brands like Patagonia who are already using nylon in their products and just switch the sourcing of the nylon. So because of that process that I kind of touched on earlier, we're not actually changing the raw material type. So our jackets would be just as light or just as waterproof or just as flame retardant as any of their existing nylon products. So with that being said, if you look at any polymer-based article of clothing, there is a level of heat and flame resistance, probably not as high as that of natural fibers. But ours specifically, or the Net Plus jackets that are made from our material, would be no different than the performance of that of say a virgin or a new oil derived nylon.
Thank you. This question is for Ingrid. How do you work with fishers and fishing communities on addressing ghost gear as a problem?
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, great question as well. We really work with fishers and fishing communities as part of the solution. Like I said before, no fisher really wants to lose their fishing gear or see their end-of-life fishing nets end up in the ocean. And so it's really both about education and raising awareness about the problem of ghost gear and the options that are out there for recycling fishing nets and forging those partnerships with them, both with industrial fishing companies as well as with the fishing communities. And then the Borrego model is really about giving back to those communities as well. So there's a real incentive beyond, just wanting to make a difference for the ocean, for those communities to participate. And in the Triple GI overall, we, do a lot of work on technology transfer as well, where we try and bring better fishing gear, better technology to fishing communities. So we always try and make sure there's a benefit to the community beyond, helping the ocean that is apparent to them. And generally, we receive a lot of receptiveness. It's hardly ever that we don't get great collaboration from fishers and fishing communities all around the world.
That's wonderful to hear. There's something submitted to the Q&A section that's more of a comment for everybody that I just want to make sure I share, which is an attendee shared. They're so impressed with what's being done in the recycling process and asking you all, I guess this is a question, asking you all to keep up the good work. I'll move into a question to the Borrego team next. Will it be possible for Borrego to conduct all of the steps of recycling in-house in the future?
Yeah, good question. This is actually an exploratory project alongside the development work for monofilament this year. So the quick answer is it is possible. We have started to make plans on the mechanical recycling side to be able to do some additional processing at our kind of owned and operated facilities. And then in Mexico, we've started, through support from Nancy and the OC, a development project to come up with some novel kind of smaller scale recycling solutions for the monofilament project that's talked about. Regarding kind of the fiber project and the broader kind of advanced recycling process that we've worked on with Patagonia supply chain partners, we have also started some initial discussions on kind of what that may look like long-term at a smaller scale. But right now, at the volume of nets that we're collecting a year, we really are reliant on that kind of equipment and the assets that are in place to utilize them. And we just see that our best kind of use of time and money and facilities is to basically provide the solution within the communities where we're going, be able to employ people, collect those nets, and move the material into a supply chain that is currently operating. But there is definitely potential in the future to be running kind of smaller scale systems.
That's exciting to hear. This next question is for the group. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for everybody to answer. So if any other attendees would like to submit one or two more additional questions via the Q&A box on Zoom, please feel free. But the question is, What is the biggest challenge all of these partners have working together? Time, technology, it's so inspiring. Curious to see what the challenges look like behind the scenes. And Juan Carlos and Shell, can we start with you on what are some of those challenges that you work through in addressing this work?
Yeah, of course. I think for us on our side, on our part of the recycling process, sometimes the challenges are mainly in the being able to make them like share the idea with their own eyes, right? Make the fisheries understand, because sadly, as we know, mostly that I mean, it's a company, it's a business, right? So fisheries want to obtain the more benefit or the more income with the less investment or with less loss. So for them, sometimes they see this fishing gear as loss, and then that's when we come in to share with them and to make them to help them see that this is a viable solution, and there is not a loss for them, but it's also like a big benefit, because we pay for those nets like in a symbolic way, and we also give as much or more to the community projects that Phil talked about. So sometimes that is one of the challenges that actually Phil is the one that goes in the front line with fisheries, and it's been really good so far.
Yeah, like it's really hard when we explain all the benefits that the fisheries have by participating in this program. But also, I think they have to understand that actually they need to do something with their waste, and to have these kind of certifications or more involvement with the communities, and also in participating with when they lost some nets, to report to the government, to report to the people that could work in collect again that kind of net. So like you said, anyone want to lose their tool for work. So yes, it's really hard to work in and convince them that this is a good option, that this is a good solution, and that if we work together, we're going to have like more a better solutions, a better work. So yeah, I think that will be for us in our side the most challenge part.
Thank you for going into that and for doing that work, and especially a lot of the frontline work that you're referring to. David and Kevin, how would you sum up some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of expand upon the comments from Shell and Juan Carlos that, actually the team here are mostly engineers. And so I think we approach this problem as like very pragmatically, in that like there's a problem, we can find an engineering solution, and we can do it in this little box. And that was 11 years ago. And I think what we realized is that nothing really worthwhile happens in a little box. And it really is built upon partnerships with the fisheries for Juan Carlos and the team in Mexico and Shell, partnerships with the people that we work with, like these guys and the employees that we have in all these different countries, all the way up through the brand partners that we work with and sell the final product. And it's kind of getting everybody engaged, getting everyone across the story and the work that we're doing, and really just kind of building on those personal relationships, which, I would say probably not a strong suit of most engineers, is personal relationships, but we're doing our best. But it's kind of after 11 years looking back, it's really just all about the people that we've connected with, keeping people that really work well together, close together, and then continuing to build good relationships and good partnerships, because that is really the key to it. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, just on the practical sense, anyone that has been involved in a business that involves physical product knows that there's a lot of logistics that goes into it. So specifically for us in collecting waste fishing nets, we have logistics on the front end, which certainly Shell and JC are coordinating on a daily basis really in Mexico, and all our teams are really on a daily, weekly basis. I mean, we're moving anywhere from 5 to 10 tons of material a day now at the busiest time. So that's multiple truckloads and containers moving to different locations. All of those come with organizing shipments, pickups, deliveries, unloading. That's just to get the material into the yarn. And then certainly Kevin and I work with those partners on certifications of the traceability of the material through to the final brand partner. We have to overcome hurdles with waste restrictions, shipping across borders, certainly customs and all other fun stuff that any business has to deal with. So quite a bit of legwork to be moving the product around, but obviously it's worthwhile and what we're focused on a day-to-day basis. So luckily we have great partners like the OC and Nancy. We have great commercial partners. Patagonia has been an investor and supporter of ours for the last 9 years. So they have certainly been a huge lift of driving pull-through demand on the recycled material, which kind of makes the flywheel spin. And yeah, that's on the practical side.
Thank you. And Claudia and Ingrid, I'll let you answer last on what some of the biggest challenges that you face in working together, the time, the technology.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, and thank you for that question. I will say I can think of 3 or 4 like things. First of all, political will. There is always a challenge. I don't think that only happens in Mexico, but that is something that we have to face. We have to work hand with the government and trying to be in the same page and trying to introduce this Ghost Gear topic in their agendas and make them find it as important as it is. One is in terms of political will. The other thing, David and Kevin were talking about the logistic and all that. Well, yeah, I have seen, like, for example, one of the main challenges for many of our partners working in the country is the distances and the costs of transportation in the country. Mexico is a huge country, and from all of the states of the country, 17 of them have ocean. So we have to work in basically the majority of most part of the country, and it's expensive and time consuming to try to be everywhere at the same time. The other thing is not really, I don't know what I put it in the main challenges, but something that comes to my mind is that when we have to work with fishing community, with fishers, at the beginning, we find them a little bit reluctant. So they said, oh, here comes the environmentalist again. What are they gonna ask us? And when they find out what we are doing, they actually said, oh, this is helping us. So this is cool. But at the beginning, approaching them is always like hard a little bit. And the other one, I will think the last one, a challenge will be, well, again, like cost funding. So we find a lot of enthusiasm across the country with many of our partner local NGOs and individuals. But the funding is always a need. So it's something that we have to face every time we want to expand our project to different communities.
Thank you, Claudia. And Ingrid, I'm not sure if you have anything you'd like to add to that before we finish up for the night.
Sure. I'll just add to what I'm most excited about in terms of the future of the project. I do have a little other stakeholder here who snuck into my office, so that's why I was off camera for a little bit. But what I'm most excited about is that the great work that we are doing with the Nancy project in the US, Mexico, and Canada is really replicable to other countries, especially in Latin America. And so we are really excited to see this work being replicated in those countries that have similar stakeholders, similar fishing industry, and similar problems, but also a similar appetite to work with us to address the problem. So what I'm really excited about is to continue this work in Mexico, but also see how we can start making a difference in some other countries in Latin America together with our project partners that we have established already. So that really brings me a lot of excitement for the future.
Thank you. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and with that conclude our event for the evening. So appreciative for all the amazing questions we've received during our Tackling Ghost Gear in North America virtual event tonight. Thank you so much to everybody for attending this event. Thank you to our fantastic panelists. We're really grateful for your time and your generous support in fueling our programs and initiatives that protect our ocean and marine ecosystems. You all attendees, you should receive a follow-up email from us with the recording of this, as well as a post-event survey. If you have any questions, please reach out to rsvp@oceanconservancy.org. And just thank you again for your time and for the time of our wonderful panelists. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.